I'm good. Guess where I am?
Running errands.
I'm running my errand, and I'm at Discovery Park walking my dog. Keep away from this place.
Oh, that's not an errand. That's like leisure. Yeah, that's good. Good. You're a good friend to your dog.
Well, I live in an apartment, so I have to walk her every day, and that's how I discovered Discovery Park. And I'm like addicted to the place. It's so gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a good spot. I mean, you're on the edge of the world there.
I go up to the heritage area all the time, but then often I go to the reflecting ponds on the weekends because on the weekends often there isn't a place to park here at the South Parking Lot. So
sure.
Yeah, so
you can find a place to park on the other street.
Yeah, by the reflecting ponds once in a while, more often on the weekends. But gosh, it's awfully nice of you to call me and chat with me about the reflecting ponds.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad you pinged me. I do. If I could just exchange a little information, I can ask you later. But I was just asking about the pond level because I'm not in town for like a week or so. So I am really a little selfishness. I'm interested or curious about the pond level that you saw. That's about it.
Well, to me, the pond level, so I took those pictures probably on Friday.
Okay.
And no water, because I saw that big tubing thing when I came down towards it. No water is going into the pond. But to me, the pond level, I would say,
looked higher,
and I'm also saying that because the turtles always sit on that one little log, and the turtles weren't there. And the log, if I can know which log it was that had the turtles, if it's the same one, it looks like it's almost submerged.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how water's getting in there, because you can hear all the water going down that thing. How does water get in there? Does it just seep in?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just real curious about that because I did see it on Friday afternoon really briefly when I put some of the signs up, and it looked a little, at that point in time, I think the bypass pipe that you saw, the black pipe that was in there for about 24 hours. I thought the level was down a little bit, but I don't know, maybe I was just hopeful.
Well, maybe it's down from what it was when you put the pipe in, because why would the level be up? I'm thinking maybe the level's up because of the warmer weather for a long time now and the snow's melted. Do you think that's why the level's up? I mean, is it, because, it seemed like, to me, a lot of water was going through there. I mean, maybe even more water than usually goes through.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we haven't had any rains, and I don't think, right? So, yeah, I'm not sure.
Where does that water, I did actually wonder, where does that water come from?
So far as we can tell, it just, it's like groundwater that just pops out of the hill. I think loosely it's sort of connected. I don't know, you're probably familiar with that wetland up on top of the hill near Discovery Park Boulevard, near the stables. It's like the old stables on the north end of the historic district. There's this place called the Utah Wetlands. And
I'm always trying to figure out where that is.
Yeah,
I read about it.
They're like, it's really obscured by a lot of vegetation, like willows and stuff. But it's, there's that little meadow. It's like a little meadow off the north end of north of Discovery Park Boulevard. So, it's like the most northernmost yellowish house out there. And so the wetlands right there. So yeah, I just think it just pops out of the hill, and then eventually it just so much of it. I don't think there was, and there's 3 forks of that stream, which there was now called Shoreman Creek. But I think at one point in time before the military occupation there, I think there was just like a lot of water just pops out of the hill, and it was just like a wetland that would just sheet down, and then finally just make its way to Puget Sound. So yeah, so I think it just kind of pops out of the hill, and then eventually it's been piped. You know, a few places it's been piped or put underground, but yeah, just groundwater that comes out and then makes its way down.
Yeah, I know. I could never really understand. Because I don't see a river, so it just pops out. That's so weird. Well, I mean, how does it get there to pop out? Is that like an underground stream or spring?
Yeah. If you kind of creep around, there's pipes that you'll see. Actually, and it's weird though. When we were there, the pipe, because I think of those ponds were dug out eventually at some point in time, maybe like between 40 and 50 years ago, we think. And so there is a pipe that runs intermittently at the it's right off of Texas Way there, so right at the top of the hill, like above the first pond, above the uppermost pond, and it just seems to start there. But if you look across the street, like uphill, there's some wet areas as well. So I think it kind of moves underground. Like I think the water just moves underground. It's not like a real river, but in some places it's it's like standing water, and then it just and then eventually it just keeps going.
It always is going across the street there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think historically that was just, I think the water just sort of has a memory, and I think that's probably where it has always just flowed, maybe right across the street. Yeah, it's sort of problematic that it's on the street, but that's a whole other story.
So you have a big job so this was originally a fort, and I mean, city, buildings and all that. So you have a big job trying to get the water organized and make it a natural preserve, it sounds like. Sounds like that's pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a plant ecologist, so really I just kind of my job is dealing with vegetation. And this project kind of fell in my lap, a couple years ago, because the United Indians of All Tribes and their sister organization is called Na'a Fund. They were interested in restoration of this area, and so restoration is like my job, and so they were interested in the water, the issues with the water, and there are also issues with the vegetation around it, and what is there and what's not there, essentially. And so at some point they had like 3 years ago or so, they had applied for this grant, and they had they were doing some planning, and so it's sort of materialized over the last few years. Yeah, so traditionally I don't really do much with water, but in my work group, we have crews that do drainage and wastewater, heavy equipment, and then we do revegetation work. So we've been basically been developing this project out there for a few years, and working with the community. And then my program, I definitely always work with community groups too. So that's how it's all coming together.
So you say in your sign that the irises were so beautiful a couple of months ago. I took a bunch of pictures, but you say they're troublemakers.
They are, that term, that's an interesting term. So they're, classified by the county as a Class B noxious weed. So they are recommended for removal. I think over time they have started to. I think right now it's like the kind of crossing the threshold where they're starting to really dominate the edges around the pond, and the way they grow, they sustain themselves through seed, but they also have this really thick rhizome, like underground and in the muck, and so they're really growing. And the desire from the community out there is, and so we know how the trend of that plant, it will just kind of take over. So from what it's like a new plant. It's like a new relationship I have with this plant. So we've been watching it the last couple of years. It's not growing like some plants, like a land grow, can grow really robustly, but the desire from the community out there is like that plant, it cannot be really isn't used for anything. I think they've tried to like weave with it a little bit or whatnot, but they pretty much, they just don't want, I don't think they want to, we may pretty much take most of it. I think we're going to try to take most of that out. I think we'll probably be living with it for quite a while, but they also want a wider diversity of plants out there growing. So,
do they want
so we're going to, so we will replace it with other plants.
The more original plants, or?
Yeah, more like quote-unquote native plants.
Native, yeah.
So, and there's lists of plants that like grow in water, like in the, the muddy kind of shore around the banks, and then there's other sort of woody vegetation or flowers and different things that are planned to go in after the iris is removed. But I know, it is gorgeous. Where I grew up, there was some of it where I grew up in this lake near me, and so it is really beautiful. But I think we're going to put some equally beautiful things in.
The ponds are so beautiful, and the ducks were there for the longest time, and they got big, and I guess did they just go on their way, the ducks, after a while?
I think the ducks, they will, they're probably here, I don't know if they're here, they must be here year-round, but they move around, I believe. I see them there. I saw a heron there, too, on Friday when I was there with my son. The frog, I guess amphibians-wise, so we delayed the project until September so the frogs could leave. So I guess they actually will drop on the reed canary grass or the other vegetation that's kind of in the pond or half hanging in the pond. They will do their egg masses. That's where they lay their egg masses, and then they mature throughout the summer, I guess. And from what I hear, they're basically out by the end of August. So we think the frogs are out, and we don't, as far as we know, it's not a salmon-bearing stream, but there is, a bunch of wildlife, like the frogs and everything. So
I hear the frogs.
It's an abundant place.
And are there beavers there? The guy at the grocery store told me there were beavers there. Beaver dams. I've never seen that there.
I don't know about beavers. We generally, we have a lot of streams in the parks that have, well, not a lot, but some have beavers on them.
In Discovery Park?
In other parts of town. And generally people let us know because they're they're kind of nuisances. We love them. We think they're super cool, but we think they're definitely cool, but they potentially, they change the way the water flows and pools, and sometimes it floods things that we don't want to flood. So, but we got them in Longfellow Creek and Thornton Creek. There are, I think that's it, but maybe there's probably some other ones I don't know about, but as far as I know, there's none on that creek.
Wow.
But I don't know, but who knows, because we don't own parks. It flows across into private land too. So who knows? Like downstream, there might be.
Oh.
There is some.
Wow. This Discovery Park, it's so big. It's so beautiful. I mean, it's just like magical to me that there's a forest in the middle of the city that's about 15 minutes from my house that I can walk through. It's just unbelievable. And there's flowers here. It's changing all the time. And now there's all these, not too long ago, it was just really stunningly in bloom. The flowers are amazing. I just can't believe it. It's like an enchanted forest. Well, we don't have this in San Diego. We have Balboa Park, which is beautiful, but I mean, San Diego's hot and dry, you know.
No, I spent some time in San Diego for sure. It's great down there. But yeah, it's really like a lot more sagebrush and things. I spent some time, I did work in Southern California too, so got some cool vegetation, but yeah, sometimes it's not in the places where you want it, or it's not next door to you like you have.
So are you? Oh, look, I just want to ask you: are you hoping then? You're saying to drain the pond. Your goal is to drain it, and then what do you do when you? Well, what about the turtles? Someone said the turtles you do not want there. Is that true or untrue?
No, turtles are cool. Turtles are fine. Personally, I have never seen turtles there.
Oh, I'll send you some pictures I have. Okay. They're hard to see because it's all glossy like, and you get the sheen on the water, and then it's kind of hard to see the turtles. The turtles have been there for a long time, but I did not see them there last weekend. But they're always sitting on this one log by the docks. There's two of them.
Right by the docks.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
And anyway, so you're going to drain it and then try to take out. You're trying to clear out all the debris in the bottom of it so it can be more deep and clean.
Yep. So the issue is like these ponds were created, right? So they're dug out, and then over time, they build up just sediment, just soil that becomes sediment, and so there's less room for the water, and then, and so in the winter, especially during big rains, because our rainfall patterns are changing, and I think it's complicated with our rainfall patterns are changing quite a bit, and that, the summer we get longer, drier springs and summers, but then we get the same amount of rain, but it just falls more intensely over the wintertime. So we get these flush of water, and then it floods, no one can walk around on the trail. I don't know if you visit in the winter, but you see in that picture, I have a few photos over the last couple of years that I've been just used for reference, but even in that photo I posted on the little poster, that's a picture of it during kind of a flood stage after some rains. So essentially our thoughts are that and there's a structure like a pipe that lets out the water, and also a big it's called a vault essentially, and we think. And that, the vault is regularly maintained. We think the inlet has been silted up. So we're basically want to remove some extra sediment, like muck, on the bottom. So we'll remove that. Remove that and then remove the iris at the same time and then refill the pond. But sorry, I skipped it. So the step, though, before is, like you alluded to, is to bypass the stream. So, gradually over the next couple weeks, we will dewater the pond slowly over time. But we need, in order to dig out the sediment, we need it to be pretty dry.
Yeah.
So, and then refill, and then basically, remove that pipe, and then just let it refill on its own.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm a plant guy, really, and so it's been a team effort with my coworkers and the community to kind of figure out this plan. It's been materializing over time. There's still, Yeah, like a few surprises or whatever. So it's just good to be able to talk with people that have experience with the place on the ground.
So it's hard to maintain a man-made pond, isn't it? I bet that's really hard. I bet the whole thing is like because most natural ponds you probably don't have to dig out all the time.
Yeah,
but
I think it just depends what people want from the pond. I mean, over time, I think a lot of ponds, I don't know if they always sustain themselves. Like, we have a snapshot of them in time, and I think eventually, I think of just looking back as, I mean, obviously I'm older, but not super young. Trying to think about ponds that I've seen, kind of watched over my lifetime, and often, a lot of times, sediment comes in, they fill up, and eventually it sort of evolves, and then different vegetation creeps in, and so for this one, like I said, if there wasn't a trail, alongside it, it might just be fine. But this is a place where people use. Not only to walk around it, but there's a picnic tables there, and people wanna. The flooding is sort of an issue, and we do have several other ponds in the system. So we have the Japanese garden pond at Washington Park Arboretum. And then Kubota Gardens, there's a pond as well. And so those two ponds are smaller, but those have actually been maintained, like with kind of very similar treatment of like scooping out the muck, taking it away, refilling them. And then, since they're in gardens, they're very intensively like manicured, curated, So, so this one is more like kind of a wilder space.
That's kind of what's so nice about Discovery, that it is man-made, but wild. And everyone's saying this. Is it the Martin Luther blackberry that they're so annoyed with? It's taking over everywhere.
Yeah, the blackberry, we definitely have removed, probably responsible for a lot of blackberry removal in that park and other places. But I don't think we'll ever get rid of it. And we can talk, we can definitely, I ate some yesterday.
They're delicious.
Yeah, I was out with my cousins and my son, and we ate some. They're incredible. But in some cases, they do. We just have other desires instead of just, like a big monoculture of one plant. We like to add like lots of diversity of things that flower and fruit, differently over the course of the year.
I see a lot of apples. I see apples.
Oh, do you? Okay, yeah. There's apples on the south end. That we started to care for them this year. More intensively, like pruning and mulching, and harvesting them this year, probably in the next year. In the North Bluff area too, that's kind of west-ish and south of the pond area.
And do you try to make the plants where the animals can live? Like, I was showing you that picture of that huge owl. I was just walking near Wisconsin Street at the end of the south parking lot in the middle of the day, like right now, and this huge owl was like at my level, like 20 feet away from me, and just looking at me. I could not believe it. I just couldn't believe it.
Right. I think the creation of the park, definitely in like some of the written documentation around the creation of the park, it was, definitely supposed to be a place for, animals, and also, a respite for people as well, out of the fray of the metropolis. So, and I think of it as, it's formerly, Duwamish territory, and then it was settled, and then, it was definitely had that long, a couple decades worth of military presence there. So it was, developed, there's places now that were like a parking lot or a barracks or something just like a few decades ago. So we do have, I think of it in this, and that's a little bit cliche, but like kind of in this mosaic, right? So there's like some forest, like that wet North Forest where that water leaks out of the hill, like that's been predominantly too steep or too wet for anyone to like build something on. So it's big old forest, even though it's been logged. Formerly it was maybe they're growing things. There was probably crops maybe grown in certain areas. There was apples, maybe legacies from, someone's yard even. So yeah, I'd say a bigger forest, and then some places are just, open grassland, and then we have like, these weedy edges, blackberry, and there's just and then we got the shoreline, and there's just a crazy diversity of different sorts of like little ecosystems in the park.
And then someone was saying on Wisconsin Street, where you're walking through, is it a poplar forest? That was really just recently planted, and then that lets you get the more pine trees. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah, the aspens, the aspen poplars, in that area, that was, I don't, let me see, when was it? Early 2000s, just like 20 years ago, or around-ish, it was planted, and there was some funds, like from the transfer of the property from the federal government to the city. There was some funds that came along with it, and so it was like, not insignificant. It was like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and some of that went towards demolition of the structures, and then the revegetation of them. So, and the most recent tour project, and then the funds are like gone essentially. The last big project that that did that was called the Cape Art project. So
the Cape Art, yeah.
Yeah, Cape Art up in the top, at the top there. So, and that was, just 10 plus years ago, that was just a bunch of cul-de-sacs with some 1950s housing on it.
What? I couldn't. Yeah. So I realized after it is what you're saying. It is. I find it rejuvenating just to come here. I don't know what it does. It does something. It's like just this thing happens. It gives you energy to come here and walk through here. But then I realized at some point after people just telling me all this stuff, it's most of it is planned, right? It's a plan.
I mean, there was like the master plan. There was some planning done in the 80s,
It was forest originally, but then everything took it out.
Yeah, and then the military, they had plans definitely, but then when it came back to the city, there was some plans done, but there really hasn't been much planning since then, and since for a while. I mean, obviously we have our own, my program has its own plan for the foresty areas, but there is like a little bit of a hodgepodge of spots where like, there's not supposed to be forest, like the historic district, where you see all the yellow buildings, supposed to be, kind of left like that, like a snapshot in time.
It does look like that.
Yeah, so it's probably, who knows how that will change. I don't have much, it's an area where we don't plan to kind of reforest, so we don't spend much time there. But there are some plans, essentially. I mean, there's a plan to kind of reforest some areas that are not currently forested. Yeah, some areas though will stay open and scenic, I guess, so you can see. There's definitely some areas that are supposed to where we should maintain views of the water and the mountains.
Oh, so
stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't know all that was thought out. Well, you've done an awfully good job. I mean, I'm just sitting here now by the south parking lot and these tall trees. So how old, this is what I wanted to ask you, how old are these really, really tall? I guess are they Douglas firs? But they're super tall. How old are they?
Yeah, the tallest ones are Douglas firs. Yeah, they can be trees that are roughly, who knows? I mean, I would say at least. I mean, there's, I can tell you. Yeah, depending on the size, it could be. I wouldn't say they're more than a couple 100 years old.
Oh,
I haven't seen really, but there could be pushing 100. Yeah, some could very well be pushing 100 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, but there are some, and there's some really gigantic trees in there that may have, be sort of original, but definitely you can tell by sometimes there's a few big old stumps around where you can kind of tell what was originally there.
Well, it's a lovely, lucky, amazing place.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Well, I appreciate your chatting with me and telling me all about it.
Yeah, of course.
It's so nice of you. It's so nice of the city to do all this.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky to have, be fortunate. I mean, we are using some funds from the Seattle Park District, which is, a pool of funds that we voted on, in 2014 to create. So it definitely helps to have, public dollars, like our investment. You see our public dollars go towards investments that people, want to see and that are beneficial to, kind of stewardship of the land and then bringing the community in to take care of places as well.
So would you say the people of Seattle are interested in the stewardship of the land and the environment and trying to get everything in order for the environment, for the benefit of the environment to do well?
Yeah, and I think, I think it's in many people's interest. Yeah, I don't know if they want to see necessarily, forest all the time. But I think most people, and this doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of, parks either. It can be, it can be their front yard or the backyard. It could just be their terrace, or it could be like a little urban agriculture. It could be a lot of different things. So I don't think it traditionally translates into, it doesn't have to be necessarily a big 500-acre park of discovery. But I think, most people, I guess they don't have the kind of the privilege of thinking about those things all the time. But I would say, I think if you were to, query or survey people, I think most people sort of have some vision of, taking care of the place where they live in some form or fashion.
Well, you're sure doing a good job, because I think it's a bird sanctuary here, because I don't just see eagles a lot, but owls and these beautiful woodpeckers with red heads, and just see all
those are the best.
Yeah, all kinds of birds here. So that's just in regular walking through the park every day.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, thanks for the information about the water level, and then for sure. And it's good talking with you about the project. And it will. I will be back in the office next week, so I'll see it for myself, and yeah, I think it's gonna look weird. It'll definitely look weird for the next couple weeks, like out of the ordinary change. But yeah, it's gonna be. I think it's we're gonna trying to imagine what it could be.
I can't wait to see how it progresses and the finished product.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I mean, I think by October into early spring, we'll probably be starting to replant some things.
And if people want updates, how can people get information about it or get updates about it?
Yeah, so at this point in time, we'll do looking forward to a press release, and then there is obscure probably websites where we'll post some updates on the Seattle Parks website. But yeah, people can just email me. I should put the information. I'm going to send the information out to the Friends of Discovery Park as well, and I think they probably have a broader, more local like reach around the neighborhood, Magnolia. And then people can just you can feel free to give people my email address.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time, and thank you to the City of Seattle for your work and telling me about your work, and I love it. I really enjoy it.
For sure. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, take care. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.